Hola everyone, I am Manasi, a botanical watercolor artist from India. A few of you may know me as Sayonesi on Instagram. I have been using brushes from the Princeton Artist Brush Company for over 4 years, and for the past 2 years I have also been one of their global ambassadors. And today we are going to paint a simple leaf together. For this tutorial, I'll be using Princeton's Aqua Elite round brushes, watercolors from MaimeriBlu, St. Cuthberts Mill Saunders Waterford 300 GSM cold pressed paper, a plain white palette, cotton cloth or tissue, and a container of clean water. First, let us understand how to paint curves. Our challenge is to make something look three-dimensional on a surface like paper which is two-dimensional. This is where light and shadow come into play. If I curve this paper a little, do you notice how the shades change? And if I roll it further into a cylinder, you can see clear bands of light and dark where the light falls. There's a smooth transition of tones moving from dark at the edges to light at the center. In painting, we recreate this by starting with color in the darker areas and blending it gently towards the lighter areas. Now look at the stem. It is like an extended cylinder with the same light and dark bands. The same principle applies to leaves as well. They are curved surfaces with light hitting the raised areas while the dip stay in shadow. Try to spot these curves and undulations on a leaf, the parts that rise and the parts that dip. In our subject today, the leaf curves evenly along the central vein, and in the areas between the secondary veins called interveinal areas, you can notice a clear gradation from dark near the central vein to lighter shades towards the margin or edge of the leaf. Let's begin by clearing some basics. First, how to create a smooth gradation with a simple blend. As we saw earlier, a blend works like a value scale, a strip of the same color in different shades. It starts from dark on one end and gradually becomes lighter as we add more water to the pigment. Now imagine drawing two parallel lines and creating a cylinder between them. We'll start by adding darker color along the edges and blending it towards the center. It is important to always think about a light source or observe one if you are working from a real subject. Because without light and shadow, it is difficult to make anything look three-dimensional. To create more depth, we'll repeat this process until the effect feels right. With each new layer, we'll add a little more pigment. Apply color while the previous layer is still slightly wet so the paint flows naturally, and use a damp brush to soften any harsh edges. Be careful not to drop extra water or you'll get unwanted blooms. Avoid loading the brush with too much paint or water if you want an even blend. And remember, if you run a completely dry brush over a wet surface, it will lift the color from the paper. That can be useful, but only if that is the effect you're going for. You can work wet on wet or wet on damp depending on the look you want. And usually the final strokes go on a wet on dry surface. Now let's imagine a simple, gentle curve. Start by adding paint from one side and drag it towards the other edge. This time, instead of straight zigzag strokes, let the brush follow curved lines. This creates the effect of an oculus, the play of light and shadow that makes a surface appear curved. Let us go back to our soft blend and see how layering works in watercolors. With each layer, the intensity or the value of the color increases. This helps us add more depth and gradually bring out the colors rather than leaving everything on just one layer. The real beauty of watercolors lies in the process of layering. Remember, you can always go from light to dark, but it is very difficult to go from dark to light. Because watercolor is a transparent or rather translucent medium, every layer shows through. And as you add layer upon layer, the pigments gain intensity and richness, giving your painting more life and depth. Let us understand what oculus means by painting a sphere. Imagine a source of light falling on one point of the sphere. That spot will be the brightest. As you move away from it, the surface gradually gets darker until it reaches the opposite edge, almost like a horizon line. So an oculus in painting is this gradual shift from light to dark and is what creates the illusion of roundness or curvature on a flat surface. Adjust the size of your brush depending on the area you're painting. If the surface feels very wet and you want more control, switch to a smaller brush. By combining the three exercises we just did, we can now see how to paint a leaf. This is a rough idea of how these steps come together and how this understanding of light, shadow and blending helps us create a sense of roundness in our painting. Let's quickly recall the basics before we start painting our leaf. First, the wash layer. It is always the base. Second, blend your color evenly without blooms or sharp lines. Third, if you add a second layer while the first one is still wet, it is called wet on wet. Notice how the color blooms and spreads. Fourth, if you wait until the first layer is halfway dry before adding the next, it is called wet on damp. Here, the flow of color is more controlled. And fifth, when you paint on a completely dry surface, it is called wet on dry or glazing. This technique is often used at the end for adding shadows and fine details. Now let us get to painting our leaf. I am taking fresh squeezes of paint. You'll find all the names in the description. The first three are Cadmium Yellow Lemon, Cadmium Yellow Medium and Green Gold. For the first layer, we'll do a plain wash using a size 8 brush. Fill the entire leaf with a light, thin layer of yellow. Go ahead and paint over the veins as well. They'll blend in naturally since the veins of the leaf are also yellow. Once this layer dries, we'll switch to a size 2 brush and start drawing the veins. For this, we'll mix green gold and sap green with more water to get a shade slightly darker than our base layer. Sometimes the sketch might not be visible because of reflections, so I cast a shadow with my hand to make the outlines easier to see. Next, we'll start painting one intervenal space at a time with the same mix of green gold and sap green, but this time in a slightly thicker consistency. It is always easier to break down the leaf into smaller regions and simple steps. Add color where the leaf looks darkest. Then drag it forward with clean water to soften it. Let us try that again. Repeat it on both the sides of the midrib. Once this layer has completely dried, we'll deepen the color. To our mix of green gold and sap green, I'm adding a touch of hooker's green. With this richer shade, we'll repeat the same process, painting between the veins on both sides of the midrib. This time, instead of just blending with water, I'm using a light wash of cadmium yellow lemon mixed with cadmium yellow medium. This helps to pull the green forward while keeping that yellow undertone alive in the leaf. It is a simple way to add depth without losing the brightness. You can also drop in a bit of green from the corners and let the color flow naturally across the leaf. This adds a touch of drama and movement, almost like the leaf is alive. Here, we are using the wet on wet technique, allowing the pigment to spread softly into the damp surface, creating those beautiful organic transitions that watercolors are known for. Next, we'll move into the finer details of the veins. Start observing the secondary veins closely. Notice on which side they cast a shadow, whether it falls above the vein or below it. Using this as a guide, carefully reinforce those lines to add more structure and depth to the leaf. As you work, avoid leaving any harsh edges. Instead, gently soften and merge each stroke with a damp brush so the shadows feel natural and seamlessly blended into the rest of the leaf. Now, let us add another layer of depth. I am mixing a little cobalt green into our existing green mix and glazing it gently around the central vein. This subtle overlay helps create uniformity across the leaf and casts a soft shadow where needed. I am also adding a touch of Cerulean sky blue to our green mix. This helps bring in a hint of freshness without having to go darker with the greens. This technique is called glazing, laying a transparent wash over the parts of the leaf to bring out shadows or highlight any natural curves you notice. Adding a bit of Berlin blue to get darker greens near the base of the leaf. If, in the process, some of the veins begin to fade, you can always bring them back by carefully lifting color. Use a clean, slightly damp brush, move it along the vein to lift off the pigment, and then wipe the brush on a cloth. It is a simple, repetitive process, but remember, avoid excess water. Your brush should only be lightly damp, not soaked. You can lift the paint without leaving watermarks. You can also gently repaint around the secondary veins if they seem to have faded. This will bring back their definition. For the midrib, it's quite simple. We'll create a gentle ombre effect, starting from the tip of the leaf with sap green, then blending into green gold, and reaching cadmium yellow medium by the middle. From there, we'll gradually shift into a mix of Pyrrole red and finally adding a touch of burnt umber right at the top. Remember, these aren't separate blocks of color, they are blended seamlessly into one another to create a smooth, natural gradient. I did take out a little dragon's blood color here, but I didn't end up using it, since I was already able to achieve the tones I wanted with just burnt umber and Pyrrole red. As this layer begins to dry, take a small brush with just a touch of burnt umber, being careful not to overfill it. With a very light hand, add a few delicate spots on the leaf, just like you often see in nature. While they are still wet or even half dry, use a slightly damp brush to gently soften them. Just touch the spots lightly so they merge into the leaf blade, blending in softly instead of standing out too stark. The goal is for them to look like subtle, natural freckles rather than bold marks. Going back to the midrib, once that first wash has dried, we'll go in with another layer following the same order of colors. This will help brighten the midrib and make the gradient appear richer. We are going to treat the midrib as a cylinder, and just like we discussed earlier in the video, we'll paint one edge slightly darker. This subtle shading creates the illusion of roundness, giving the midrib a more three-dimensional cylindrical effect. Once this layer has dried, we'll add any little spots or details you notice along the midrib. Here, I can see a few natural markings, so I'm using a touch of burnt umber to gently fill them in. My brush here is kept comparatively dry, so the marks appear a little rough and textured rather than soft or subtle. Finally, I am adding a soft layer of cadmium yellow medium over the secondary veins. This helps them stand out more clearly. And just like that, with only 10 colors and a couple of brushes, we have learned how to paint a simple leaf. This one, a mango leaf. Thank you for watching and have fun painting.